That was a very, very inspiring speech, and it's a very interesting audience. But I'll have to take you a step back. So just take a deep breath and allow me to don't throw stones at me right now, because I want to start from a point where I'll probably be taking you 2 steps back in your life and make you wonder that if you ever ask the question, "Mere saath hi kyun hota hai?" So I'm going on a completely different tangent. This book somehow starts from that point, and it culminates, the crescendo comes at where Sir was, that anything is possible. So while I dive into the, instead of me diving into the book, and Radha asked Sir that, why don't you just quick, so before I actually get into the details of the book, why don't you tell us how the name came about? Because it's the same name, which is similar to the previous book. So why don't you give some brief on that, please?
Thanks, Amit. Thank you, Kanasa, for that beautiful presentation and very kind words that you had for all of us. Ram Sewak is actually the name of my father. And both these books are my tribute to him. Unfortunately, we lost him almost 50 years to the day. It was May 1976 that we lost him. He was a great devotee of Lord Ram. And I remember one of the last acts that he performed in his lifetime was organizing a 24-hour part of Ramcharitmanas. And I'm sure if he would have been alive today, he would have penned these books himself. So I'm probably just finishing some of his unfinished task. And that is why I always felt while writing these books that he was writing them through me. And when the opportunity came to me to write this column, I actually used his name to write the column in the World also. And trust me, whenever I start writing a chapter, I pray for his blessings and I receive them. And I do believe that wherever he is, I mean, he is the inspiration for us. Many of you who would have visited me in office have sometimes asked me about a photograph that's always on my table. That's my father's photograph. So both these books are actually a tribute to him. Ram Sewak is his name, and he was actually a true Sewak of Lord Ram.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So now when I look at the book, it's organized into 3 distinct Gitas, and that's the Lakshman Gita, the Purajan Gita, the Katha Pushundi Gita, and then we've merged it into Bhagavad Gita. So can you give us a quick brief about what was the logic behind this, and how did you go about, are there in a sequence from Vasada to Bhakti with that order, or what was the reasoning behind the selection and then the chronology that you beautifully followed?
As I mentioned, both these books are my exploration of the philosophical intersection of the 2 great spiritual texts, Ramcharitmanas and Bhagavad Gita. And the first time I sort of stumbled, I would use that word, stumbled into discovering this intersection was when I read a Chaupai in Bal Kand, the first Kand of Ramcharitmanas. I think the Chaupai is 121, Doha number 121. It says, "Jab jab hoye dharam ke hani, baadhe asur adham abhimani, kare aneet jaye nahi barni, seedhe vipra dhenu sur dharni, tab tab prabhudhar manuj srira, hare dayanidhi sajjan pira." Translated, it means that whenever there is a decline in dharma, whenever the immoral people do acts which are against order, the Lord incarnates to establish dharma. And I said, well, haven't I heard this earlier? Haven't I heard it in Bhagavad Gita? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanar bhavati bharat, abhyuthanam adharmasya atmanam sujamam paritrana sadhuna vinashaya dushtam dharma sansthapanaya sambhavami yuge yuge. And yes, I said, this is a commonality. Are there more? And then I started on. And so, initially I sort of started looking at few dohas, few chopais, which were sort of reflecting the same philosophical thought. So if you look at it this way, the beauty of these two scriptures is that, one, Bhagavad Gita was Lord Krishna's message. Lord Krishna came in Dwapar Yuga. Ramcharitmanas tells us the story of Ram and the message that he gave. That came in Treta Yuga. So if you look at it this way, these are two different avatars talking to us. But the message is the same. That is one beauty of our spiritual traditions. The second, if you look at it from the literary perspective, Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata epic, which was compiled sometimes during 1500 BC. That's the age, that's the dateline that's ascribed to it. Ramcharitmanas was composed by Tulsidas ji during the reign of Akbar, sometimes around the late 16th century, about 1580, 1590. So these two texts are separated by about 3000 years. Now look at it this way, that the spiritual tradition continues, the philosophical thread continues unbroken. There are no printing presses, there are no books which are being printed in there. It's just the word of mouth, the Guru Shishya Parampara that is carrying the philosophical traditions and the huge continuity that exists. But that's the beauty of it. Now, subsequently, I started looking at conversations, because conversations are very important in our spiritual heritage. So during those, I found that these are three beautiful conversations that came out. The first one is between Lakshman and Nishadraj. Now, this is called Lakshman Gita. Now, these are not really termed as such, but subsequent scholars, Tulsidas never classified them as such, but subsequent scholars have done that. Gita really means rhyming, Geet. So whenever shloks or chopais rhyme, they are termed as Gita. So Lakshman Gita is a conversation between the king of the boatmen, Nishadraj, and Lakshman. It's on the second day of the exile of Lord Ram. The second is Purjan Gita. Purjan means citizens. Pur ke Jan. Pur city, Jan is citizens. Purjan Gita. This is Lord Ram's message as king of Ayodhya to the citizens of Ayodhya. That's again a very beautiful composition which talks not only about how to live life now, but how to worry about life thereafter. So he gives a very beautiful framework. And one of my favorite chopais there is very interesting. I hope I can recall it. It says, Nahi aniti, nahi kachu prabhutai. Nahi aniti, nahi kachu prabhutai. I'm sorry, I'm just missing it out. But what it says is that I am neither going to say to you anything which is inappropriate, nor I am going to say to you anything with authority. But what I am going to tell you is, you listen, and you absorb it, and then do as it what pleases you. So the liberal tradition of our thought starts from there. I mean, even at that time, as a king, Lord Ram gave his citizens that privilege to hear him and then decide for themselves what they think was fit. And the third, of course, is a conversation between 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐦𝐩, who's the king of the crows, Saint Crow, and the king of birds, 𝘚𝑦𝐻𝐿. That is about the dispelling the delusion of 𝘚𝑦𝐻𝐿 by 𝐂𝐨𝐴𝐻. Another perspective here, if you look at it, is look at this thing. In the same text, you have conversations between birds on philosophy. You have conversations between a king and his subjects, and you have conversations between a prince and the king of boatmen. What barriers are we transcending here? That again tells us the strength of the philosophy that we have, that in our heritage, spiritual heritage, philosophy knew no barriers. Now, a lot of times we have this misconception as if our philosophical tradition was meant for the elite. It was not. It transcended even barriers of the form that you are in. Even birds could have access to that philosophy. And it was these three conversations which inspired me and which formed the sort of meat of this book.
That's very interesting. That brings me to the next part, which is the first chapter. Now, Lord Rama and Arjun both are very, very powerful men of their times. And it seems both of them have are on their knees and in a state of mind where they are
Nishad.
I'm saying Nishad.
Nishad and
In Nishad.
Arjun.
Sorry, yeah. So
Not Lord Rama.
No, I'm saying sorry, yeah. But even Lord Rama is in a bad patch. It's like while he's educating, he comes to equanimity from a third person point of view. The guy who's addressing the issue and says, I feel that this is happening and this is bad. Both these powerful men are in a position of discomfort, unease, where therefore the Visada originates. Is it a doorway of sorts for any philosophy to enter or knowledge to enter? Is it like, do you think, is this the mandatory knock on the door to get for people to be able to absorb the knowledge or life? How does it work?
A despondent Arjun pleads to Lord Krishna in Gita, and we open this book also with a chapter of Vishad where Nishad Raj, you see, he expresses this despondency to Lakshman. He laments that why is Lord Ram suffering this way. That's how this book opens.
Yes.
I would really say that despondency is the sine qua non for wisdom. I won't say that, but yes, in some ways it does open a doorway for knowledge. Now, we have examples of other Gitas also where the conversations. See, the important point that I mentioned Amit last time also was in the previous question also was that conversations play a very important role in our spiritual heritage, and most of the wisdom that humanity has received is through these conversations. When seekers have asked questions from their gurus, from avatars, when they have sought clarity, that is the time when wisdom has flowed to humanity. Whether it was the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. Now it's called the Srimad Bhagavad Gita because it came from the Lord himself, Bhagavad, God. Srimad Bhagavad, that's why it's called Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Lakshman Gita because it's been coming from Lakshman. We also have what's called Ashtavakra Gita. Ashtavakra Gita is a conversation between King Janak and the saint Ashtavakra. Again, a beautiful conversation on Vedanta. We also have the Guru Gita, which is a conversation between Ma Parvati and Lord Shiva. We also have, Shri Ram Gita within Ramcharitmanas and Vibhishan Gita also. So there are different and these conversations have not happened out of despondency. These have happened out of curiosity, out of inquisitiveness. The key here is not despondency, but the key is delusion. The problem is that despondency also occurs on account of delusion, ignorance. And the questions that have been asked, whether by King Janak or by Lakshman of Shri Ram in Shri Ram Gita, or by Vibhishan from Shri Ram in Vibhishan Gita, they have all been questions of inquisitive seekers. And they all relate to moha, delusion. And that delusion really comes from two things. The delusion comes because of what is called as the Maya. The potency of the Lord to create that. Now, Maya again is sort of two kinds of Maya that the scriptures explain. One is called what is called the Vidya Maya. Vidya Maya is the creation. For example, this creation itself, everything here that you see, is all an illusion. And the second is the illusion of I, me, mine, my house, my car, my phone, my brother, my family. This illusion of I, me, mine, you, yours. I like to give an example here. A lot of times we say this is my house, my house. But subsequently, you change your house. So does that house still remain yours? It belongs to somebody else there. Somebody else has bought it or somebody else has rented it.
We check into a hotel and we tell you, Amit, come to my room. It's room number 305, right? Next day we check out. Does 305 still belong to you? Is it still your room? No. Another thing, probably if you look at it this way, there are so many lizards, spiders, ants who also live in our house, right? What would they be saying in their world to each other? Come to my house, I have a feet. So whose ownership are we talking about? And similarly, the delusion which is called, the biggest delusion is your 𝑑𝐸𝐴, that I am this body. Is this body yours? How did you get this body? How did you get this body? I mean, how does your ownership come here? How does the ownership come here? Is it a gift from your parents? But then, did they own that body before they gifted it to you? A lot of difficult questions. So the point here is that those questions that you mentioned have come from seekers who have sought to look beyond that. There's a very famous conversation, and I must mention here, on the Kathopanishad, which is between Nachiketa and Lord Yama, the Lord of Death. That's a beautiful conversation again about afterlife and the real identity of the self. You know, so you have to really try and understand that you are beyond this. Because if you are this body, then what happens when you leave this body? Somebody just sort of cremates it. Then where is your ownership?
Impression.
Where is your ownership? So I won't say despondency is the doorway. Sometimes it does, but the moot point is the eradication of delusion.
Well, thank you. That clarifies. And I'll quickly transition to the action mode of karma, karmavad. So you've introduced three kinds of, three broad categorization of karma. And when I was thinking that there is a past karma which has happened, then there is an existing one, and then there's an agami karma which is yet to have, which will create my future. And at different stages of life, does it mean that there are different areas I need to pay attention to? Or for this broader audience, which is primarily all working class, how does it play into our life? The concept of understanding the three karmas and the three, how do we incorporate that in a living schedule, so to say? And you have to introduce the concept of the three versions as well.
Yeah. You know, most of us have been introduced to the theory of karma through the famous shlok 2.47 of the Bhagavad Gita, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan ma karmavritorona ma tisangustha karmani. Now, I'm sure all of you would, or most of you would know the translation of this, that you only have the right to do karma, you don't have the right to the fruits. And second, that the fruit of your action should not either be the motivation for your action or the motivation for your inaction. So that's what this shlok means. Now, Tulsidas ji, what he has done is he has dealt the subject of karma in a very, very nice fashion in the entire Ramcharitmanas. So some of the chopais that he narrates, and my favorite actually, which to my mind is the one that encapsulates the entire Lakshman Gita, is Kahu na ko sukh dukh kar data nij pit karma bhog sab bhrata. It's my favorite, you know. कि कोई किसी को सुख नहीं देता, कोई किसी को दुख नहीं देता, हर इंसान अपना कर्म फल भोगता है। सो कोई इंसान किसी को कुछ नहीं देता, कोई इंसान किसी से कुछ लेता नहीं है, हर इंसान अपना कर्म फल भोगता है। And of course, thereafter, Tulsidas also writes 2-3 very different chopais, which is one of them is कर्म प्रधान विश्व कर राखा, जो जस करे सो तस फल चाखा। कर्म ही प्रधान है इस विश्व में, जो जैसा करता है उसको वैसे मिलता है। और करी सो कर्म पाव फल सोई, निगम नेति कह सब कोई, कि जो जैसा कर्म करेगा सोई उसका फल मिलेगा। Now, the obvious flow from here is that Ram ji did not do any karma that merited an exile for him. So why did he get? और वहां पे तुलसीदास जी बहुत अच्छा एक दोहा लिखते हैं कि और करे अपराध को और पाए फल भोग, अति विचित्र विरंच गति को जग जाने जोग। कि अपराध कोई करता है, फल कोई पा रहा है, विधाता की गति बड़ी अजीब है कि कैसे होता है सब कुछ। So here comes the concept of the three karmas that you said. Of course, Lord Ram is beyond karmas. He very clearly states that although he does karma in his avatar, but he is beyond karma. He is karmatit. He is karmatit, he is dvandvatit, he is gunatit.
He's sarvatit, he's transcended all these gunas, karmas, and this thing. I mean, it's a slightly deeper thing, but I'll try to explain it to you in short. So the three different karmas are, one is what is called the sanchit karma. Sanchit is what you have accumulated over your lifetimes. And these are the karmas which will ultimately determine what form you will take. And what lies ahead in this life for you. It's like a balance. It's like you have so many karmas. So Amit, you are offered that either you become Amit Sharma with this life, or you become XYZ with this life. So this is your choice. So you actually pick up your this thing. So that stands true for with the Chaupai, which says Kari Sukaram, Karam. Sorry, the first one, Kahu Nako Sukh Data, because you have chosen that life for yourself based on your sanchita, when you sort of assume this form. And the second is what is called the prarabdha. Prarabdha are those karmas which get activated based on what the life that you have chosen. So in that life that you chose, your prarabdha was that you will either undergo these kind of joys or these kinds of sorrows. This is what you will have in this life. And the third is what is called sanchit karma. Agami karma. Agami karma is what you are doing right now. Now, these are the karmas which are going to decide what will happen to you subsequently. Now, people who study the Gita often ask this question that then how do you sort of end this cycle of karmas and get out of this cycle of life and birth, death? Because otherwise, तो ये होता रहेगा कि आप कर्म करते रहेंगे, and based on that, you will continue to get in this cycle. Now, Lord Krishna gives us the answer to this question in Gita itself, when he says that if you do selfless karma, if you are not attached to the fruits of the karma, you are doing karma just for the sake of doing karma. You are not concerned about the outcome of that. Then you are not responsible for the fruits of that action. Hence, those will not get into your account of sanchit karma. And once you are going to do your agami karmas, which do not affect your sanchit karma, at some stage it's all going to get to zero. And that's what a lot of people aim to be, what's called moksha.
And that brings me to I've made some notes on this one because I wanted to put this entire theory right on the Moha. In Moha, Lakshman tells Nishagraj that everything we see, hear, or think, union, separation, wealth, adversity, has its root in Moha and delusion. Shri Krishna goes further in Gita and he tells that the people in our lives, the world around us, our circumstances, all are fetters of the mind, delusions born out of ignorance. So this instruction is clear, that endeavor to realize the truth and focus on the soul. And he happens to be, he, the all cap he, is the absolute truth. But for people like us, how does that add up? I mean, not as a philosophy, but as a practice, how do we live it?
Gita contains 700 shlokas. But if someone were to ask me to sort of summarize it in 3, I would pick 3 shlokas out of it. The first one is 2.47, which is 𝐸 𝐸𝑦 𝐒𝐞𝐦𝐻𝐵. The second one is very important, which is 11.33. 11.33 is the shlok which comes somewhere in towards the closing of the chapter where Lord Krishna actually shows his Virat Roop to Arjuna, where he uses a very, very important word for Arjuna and tells Arjuna, just become a nimitta matra, just become an instrument. Nimitta matra is the word. And the third, of course, for me, important one is 18.66, where he finally tells, which is the Charam Shlok and the final Shlok of the Gita, where after sort of Lord Krishna doesn't say anything and it's just the closing, then the next 12 shlokas are just the closing shlokas, where he says, Sarv Dharman Paritajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraj, Aham Tva Sarvapebhyo Mokshishami Mashucha. Sabhi dharmon ko taj ke मेरी शरण में आ जाए, मैं तेरे को सभी पापों से मुक्त कर दूंगा. This is a beautiful shlok, and I can talk for hours on this shlok itself. It's the finest shlok in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Now, I would pick up the word nimitta matra here, that
the way we should sort of be looking at things is just consider yourself to be an instrument of His will. The problem is that we don't become the instruments of His will, rather through our prayers, we want Him to become the instrument of our will. You know, all our prayers, we say, yaar, mera ye kar do, mera ye kar do, mera ye kar do. We want Him to become the instrument of our will. We don't want to become the instruments of His will. That is how we should be looking at becoming what is called a Nimitt Matra. You know, Gita gives us three different pathways to live life. The first is Karma Yoga. And in Karma Yoga, it is just do action, just do your karma without looking at the fruits. The second is what is called Gyan Yoga. And in Gyan Yoga is a bit difficult one, because there the concept of Drishta comes in, where you have to sort of separate yourself and look at your own actions from a distance. That's a bit difficult for people like us to sort of practice. And the third one is Bhakti Yoga, which is my favorite, which is surrender everything to Him. Bhakti is the one where everything is just surrender to His will. Do everything for Him, everything according to His will. But again, as I said, that we tend to, want Him to act as per our will rather than us acting as per His will.
So I'm going to come back to Karma Path for a second, because so you speak about Paristhiti and Manusthiti, and why I come back is because this is directly related and connected. Shri Ram went through a tumultuous time, but he was able to manage his internal world pretty all right. How do we come to that stage where you just mentioned that become Nimitt Matra? Because there's an effort required, but it has to be in the Manusthiti. So there are three parts to the question. First, the explanation of Paristhiti, Manusthiti, and then how do we get to what are the actionable steps for us that you think we can do, per scriptures or per your experience, to get to that point?
I purposely use these two words, Paristhiti and Manusthiti, in that chapter. Paristhiti is circumstances. Circumstances comprise people, place, time, objects. Those are not under your control. Paristhiti is never under your control. Either of these four elements, something will be out of your control. The only thing which is in your control is your man sthiti. आपके मन की स्थिति क्या है? How you act and how you react to a situation. That is where you come in. Now, since you asked about your daily life, I think what you need to do is you need to be in control of your man sthiti. You are responsible only for your actions. And as I mentioned earlier, also in the first chapter, also that kahu na kahu sukh dukh kardata was nijkrit karam bhog sabata. Take responsibility for your actions, because a lot of times what we do is we try to blame the others for हमारा दुख है तो उसका ये जिम्मेवारी है, अगर हमें सुख है तो मेरी अपनी करनी है. No, you are responsible for your own. Similarly, it is your own man sthiti which is very important for it. You are important. You are sort of responsible for it. As far as scriptures are concerned, whether it is the Vedas, whether it is the Upanishads, they gave us some kind of a theoretical framework on how to live. They gave us a philosophy of life. Now, these two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, essentially guide us on how to live life. Ramayana, to my mind, tells us how to live life, what to do. Mahabharata teaches us most of the time what not to do. That is also important. Mahabharata tells us what not to do. Ramayana is, of course, a classic. How should one lead life? And the beauty of these scriptures is that the theoretical framework that was given to us in the Vedas or the Upanishads, it's not that this was just a theoretical framework, but in these avatars, we sort of get to know that this is possible. You can do it. You can live by it. And as people who are in this world living a normal life, I think what we also need to be careful about is how we act and react based on the situations. Lord Ram kept his reactions under check. When he was told that he would be anointed a prince, next day he was not very ecstatic about it. When he was told he go to exile, he was not despondent about it. Ram was never despondent about it. He never cribbed about it. He never sulked about it.
I took it on his chin.
Yeah, he sort of just took it as a mission. He just took it as a mission. I mean, he took it as a mission, and he just went about doing things calmly. But he was committed to upholding the values of dharma. Now, dharma, of course, is again a word which I'm very fond of, talking about a lot on. But that would come someday, some other time, But yeah.
So I'll bridge from here to Acharan, which is another area which I wanted to check. So in 7.46.3, Shri Ram delimits the conduct that makes a bhakt dear to him. And then there are some things listed like no enmity, devoid of hope, fear, whatever you just said. Exactly that. Free of desire, pride, sin. So it sounds like bhakt has to be very pristine, clear, pure, a being, at one level internally. And I don't know about the others, but the life I lead, very difficult in today's time and age. So how do you kind of get to that, or at least take a step in that general direction of being pristine, clear, and pure?
In this chapter itself, and Lord's phrase dharma arth ka moksha, and there's a very famous doha which a lot of you must be reciting every day as part of if you read the Hanuman Chalisa, which is opening doha, which says Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raj Nijaman Mukur Sudha Barnam Raghubar Vimal Jas Jodayak Halchar. Now, what are these char phal? These char phal are dharma arth ka moksha. And in our system, everything is very logical and rational. Everything flows. Even the order in which these four are listed, there is a method to it. And the reason why I'm saying it is, look at it this way. Dharma, again, I'm coming back to my favorite word, dharma. Dharma here really means righteousness and doing your duty. Two elements of dharma. I mean, dharma, the poorest translation of the word dharma is religion, by the way. Dharma here means doing your duty righteously. Now, first of all, it says, do your dharma righteously. If you are a student, do your dharma righteously. If you are a journalist, do your dharma righteously. If you are a government servant like me, do your dharma righteously. If you are a lawyer like you, do your dharma righteously. Just do your dharma and your duty righteously. And doing that thing righteously, with honesty, with dedication, with sincerity, earn your earth. Earn your earth, earn your livelihood doing that thing righteously. Right? That will help you fulfill your desires. Calm here means desires. Right? Calm here really means desires. So, earn your livelihood righteously and fulfill your desires. That will lead to moksha. So, dharma, earth, calm, moksha. Earn righteously, fulfill your worldly desires, leads to moksha. Period. Nothing complicated about it. Nothing complicated about it. Lord Ram also says there that if you live your life without any deviousness, without any enmity with everyone, just do your work selflessly, diligently, even if you don't remember it. There's a very famous, again, part of our scriptures is something called Vedic Gita. I really don't have the time to explain Vedic Gita to you all. But Vedic Gita is again something which actually gels with what you have a butcher who has attained enlightenment. And when a saint asks him that, how have you attained enlightenment? He says, nothing. I have just done my duty righteously. I have performed my task as a butcher righteously. That's my job. That's the work I do. That's the work I have been assigned, because that gets the livelihood for my family. I have to look after my family. I have to look after my parents. I have to look after my wife, my children. So he does that work righteously and attains enlightenment. So do your work righteously, you will attain enlightenment.
You make it sound very easy.
It is.
And well, there are 2 chapters on easy. So I also made a note of that. So there is Sulabh, Sukhat, Marg and Saral Path. And then there is Sulabh and Sukhat. So what's the difference in these two? And they are in a particular chronology. One is 19, other is 22. And it basically strips down to make it very, very easy like you just did. So was there a scaffolding required in the second one? How does it work?
As our spiritual traditions evolved from Gyan to Bhakti, we were lucky to experience this immense Bhakti movement in this country. And it spread all across the country. It was in Maharashtra, it was in Punjab, it was in Rajasthan, it was in Braj, it was in Awadh, it was in Bengal, it was all across the country. And what Bhakti movement really meant was, it really meant that you really need to have any complicated relationship with Almighty. I mean, you can reach Him. And most of the Bhakts were very simple people. And they reached enlightenment, and they reached Him without any complication. I mean, Bhakti is this thing. And frankly speaking, Bhakti to my mind is the easiest path. Lord Ram says here, very interestingly, that he says the Karam Yoga is like a raft to cross the ocean of the worldly affairs. Gyan Marg is like a boat, and he says Bhakti is like a bridge. You just walk across. Bhakti is easy. Bhakti is saral. Bhakti is sukha. It is very pleasing. It is sulabh. It can be done anywhere. It can be done at all times. And Bhakti is, Bhakti is that emotion. It is that bhav. It is that it is that love for Him. It is that love for the infinite. I mean, it is. I always like to say, Bhakti is the infinite love for the infinite. That's the way I like. So, Bhakti is that Sundar, Sulabh, Sukhad Marg that Lord Ram talks of. And, in Bhakti, is a very interesting Sufi story I'm reminded of how Bhakti works. They say that there was this Bhakt who, and in Sufi tradition, the relationship between the Lord and the seeker, the Bhakt, is of lovers. So the seeker knocks at the door of his lover, and andar se awaaz aati hai, kaun hai? So he says, main hu. The door doesn't open. He realizes his mistake, that there is still that I, there is the ego. I is that you still believe that I am there. So I is the biggest problem that we have, the ego that we have. He comes back after some time and again knocks. And again, the voice comes from inside, says, kaun hai? He says, tu hi hai. The door doesn't open. Because agar tu hai, to main bhi hoonga. Agar tu hai, to main bhi hoonga. So the division has still not gone. He goes back. He comes back a third time and he knocks. Andar se awaaz aati hai, kaun hai? There is silence and the door opens. Beautiful. That's what is Bhakti. In Gyan, you try to know Him. Gyan is attaining that knowledge to know Him. Bhakti is that emotion where you dissolve in Him. You merge in Him. You don't want to know Him. You don't want to see Him. You just want to merge in Him. You just want to dissolve your identity. The biggest obstacle for all of us on the spiritual journey is ego, ahankar, I. मैं कर सकता हूँ, कर्ता भाव जो रहता है कि मैं ही कर सकता हूँ ये. In Bhakti, ahankar falls at the first step because you surrender. Until such time that you realize that you have not surrendered and your ahankar has not fallen, you have not even taken the first step on the Bhakti mark. On the Gyan mark, ahankar a lot of time does not even fall at the pinnacle. It returns to haunt you. Because in the Gyan mark, a lot of times, so Bhakti leads to Gyan. But Gyan without Bhakti could actually lead to a downfall. Because it is Bhakti which demolishes ahankar. And once ahankar is demolished,
then Gyan can appear. Thanks. So again, I have to refer to my notes for this one because this is in Dhriti Smata, in Ramcharitmanas 7.11, 7.4. Kaka Bhushan ji uses the preparation of ghee as his metaphor. The sacred milk of righteousness, churned in the fire of selfless will, cooled with Shama and Santosh. Then it goes on, basically it says, fortitude and equanimity has to happen. Shri Krishna calls this Satvik Dhriti in Gita in 18.33. It's a complicated cocktail. When everything is breaking around you, and which way do you go first? What do you pick out of the two?
As I mentioned, there are different paths to reach. It doesn't, I can't really point out, and I don't think anyone of us can really, even a guru can actually tell you which one to pick up first. It just happens. I'll give you, try and give an example. Suppose you want to see the Statue of Liberty. So what do? You sort of take a flight from here to Delhi, to take another flight to New York, take a car to reach the ferry terminal, then take a ferry and reach your destination. Suppose you have to sort of go to the Red Fort, you probably drive down to the Red Fort. You have to visit the Gateway of India, you probably take a flight to Mumbai, and then you take a car. So what are you doing here? In the first case, you are using three different modes of transport. You are using by air, you are using by road, and then by ferry. In other cases, you are using two. In some cases, you are using only one. So similarly, whether you are using a combination of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, or you are using two of them, or you are using only one, that depends upon each individual's journey. This journey is everyone's own to make. Nobody can do it for you. What does matter and what has happened is the presence of a guru. Now it's like going on a trek. You can do it on your own. But if you get a local guide, he tells you, "Sahab, is taraf se jao, ye acha hai." The guru is like the local guide that you have when you go on a trek. Trek आपको ही करना है, शिखर तक आपको ही पहुंचना है. लेकिन गुरु वो गाइड है जो आपको बताता है कि इस रास्ते से चले जाओ, ये रास्ता अच्छा है. Now, how to do it, what to do it is again your journey to take. What comes first? To my mind, simple steps, doing your work selflessly, with love, doing your duty towards your work, towards your family, that takes care of it. That's my mind is the place that you need to start.
And between fortitude and equanimity, which one is something which, and how to cultivate? That's also very important.
Fortitude is what is called a 𝑑𝐚𝐴, patience. And equanimity of mind comes with patience. Equanimity is that stillness that you have within you. Tulsidas ji here tries to bridge these two. In Vibhishan Gita, he actually, depending upon, because Vibhishan Gita to my mind is something that is probably more useful for working people like us. As I say that for working people like us, or people who are quote unquote in the Grastha ashram, it is probably more useful to do a combination of Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga rather than pursuing Jnana Yoga. It's a bit difficult for us. For probably a sannyasi in the Ramakrishna mission or Anitinmaya mission, probably Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga would probably be much more because they are not really into Karma Yoga. So in Vibhishan Gita, Tulsidas says, "Sauraj dhiraj tehiraj chaka," where he says that Shaurya and Dharya have to combine. And there he says, "Ke bal vivek dam parit gore, daya kshama samata raj jore." There he couples vivek and samata. Sometimes that equanimity of mind that comes with wisdom, that comes with dharya. So you first have to sort of try and practice dharya. So that comes through what I call as awareness. You have first got to be aware of your situation. At every time, the practice starts with awareness. You got to be aware of your emotions. You got to be aware of what you're going through. And every action that you take, if you're taking it with awareness, it's fine. So it starts with awareness, cultivate fortitude, probably it will lead you to equanimity of mind.
All right, thank you. Now I come to ego. In the Bhakti chapters, Bhakti Mukti, Chintamani Sanjeevani Sadhana Siddhi. It's explained that bhakti is not received, it's earned. And it means it's not really a transaction, it's something which is more of a gift. And one of the key components is going to be resolution of ego. Now, until you don't disappear, like you said, unless there is silence, it doesn't work. In a generation, I think probably all of us in this room, we are an I, me, myself generation, which only continues to aggravate as we're moving in generational. So, how does it add up to today's time and age, and how do you start going into the line of thought of dissolving ego in the current context?
You know, these are my favorite chapters in the book, by the way. Bhakti भाव है, भक्ति इमोशन है, भक्ति ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं है, भक्ति लॉजिकल नहीं है, भक्ति मैथमेटिकल नहीं है. Bhakti is not that you do X amount of effort and this is what is guaranteed. Like when you do Dhyan Yoga, you are told that if you do this kind of exercise, this is probably the result that you're going to. Bhakti doesn't work that way. And bhakti, as I say, it's an effortless effort. Bhakti sadhan bhi hai, bhakti sadhya bhi hai, bhakti sadhana bhi hai, bhakti siddhi bhi hai, bhakti sadhak bhi hai, bhakti bhagwan bhi hai. And very interestingly, bhakti se bhagwan milta hai aur bhagwan se bhakti milti hai. So this is a very, very interesting circularity here. भक्ति से भगवान मिलता है और भगवान से भक्ति मिलती है, बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट इट सेज, दैट भक्ति भगवान की कृपा से मिलती है. भक्ति इज नॉट अर्नड, इट इज रिसीव्ड. आपका भाव जाता है, वहां से कृपा आती है, भक्ति उसकी कृपा से मिलती है. एंड सो मोस्ट ऑफ द भक्ट्स रियलाइज सोल्स दैट यू नो ऑफ एंड कम अक्रॉस आर पीपल विद नो ग्रेट स्कॉलरशिप, नो elite lineage. They were all simple people. While Jnani, Manushya, that was Gautam Buddha or Mahavir that we hear of, they were all princes.
Yes, right.
But what do you hear of the bhakts? Whether it is a Sant Tukaram or Sant Kabir or Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Sant Surdas, Sant Tulsidas, they were all simple people, normal householders. Bhakti bhav se milti hai. Now, Bhakti, as I said, also dissolves the ego. You know, there are 5 different 5 kalesh हैं जो इंसान के लिए. And those 5 kalesh are, the first one is called avidya. And avidya is really ignorance. Ignorance which leads to the delusion of I. मैं हूँ, मेरा देहाभिमान. उस delusion से, उससे होता है, the delusion leads to this dehavan, I am the body. And that leads to the second part, which is called asamita, which is called ego. It leads to ego. So, avidya leads to asamita, the second kalesh, which leads to rag and dvesh, both attachment and aversion, with things, with people, with objects, with others. And it culminates in what is called abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is false clinging to the body and the fear of death. All of us sitting here are fear of dying, have a fear of death. No one wants to die. All of us wants to live forever. Nobody wants to die. I don't know that. None of us wants to die. But that comes from the delusion that I am the body. If I know I am not the body, again comes to this fact that if I don't fall in love with the hotel room I stayed in last night or 2 days ago. I knew this was temporary. I just sort of checked out. So if I get the same feeling about my body, that I am not the body, I'll have to check out of this someday. What's the problem? What's the problem? Now, in bhakti, this ego, which is born out of the delusion, falls at the first stage because you surrender everything to him. Bhakti comprises 3 important parts. The first is Shraddha, which is that immense love that you have for your Aradhya. The second is constant remembrance of him, the Simran part of it. And the third is Sharanagati or Samarpan that comes. The surrender part is something that is most important. Because bhakti is surrender, bhakti is Sharanagati, bhakti is Samarpan. That is where bhakti takes you. And that dissolves your ego. Ultimately, the final frontier is ahankar. You know, in our system, again, as I mentioned earlier, all these five, I mean, you would have heard this Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. Why does Ahankar come at last? Because it is the final frontier. The first is desire. Unfulfilled desire leads to Krodh. And a fulfilled desire leads to Lobh. You want to have more of it. So, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, and then comes attachment to it. And the delusion that I can do it. So, Moh is both attachment and delusion. And finally, it leads to that karta bhav, that ego, that ahankar, that I can do it. I have been able to fulfill my desire. So, ahankar is the final frontier. Bhakti demolishes that final frontier the first. That's the beauty of bhakti.
So, I want to ask you, just for a second, I'm taking a detour. How was your journey through this? How did it start? How did it get you to the point where you're, because see, education, career, everything required an effort. And you've, like we saw the 100, 200 on the Chinese and everything you've been doing. How did this transition and detour happen?
Well, honestly, I don't think I can embark on the journey. Probably what I am doing right now is getting information, downloading it from the net on how to do, what is the best path, getting the maps together, getting the brochures together as we would do in old times, and trying to figure out. I don't think I've even embarked on that journey. This journey it's a long one. But as they say, that famous Chinese proverb, you know, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Say it in Chinese.
Sorry?
Say it in Chinese.
You'll have to tell Chikasa do that. I'm out of practice for that now. This journey is a difficult one. It's not even a journey which will take days or weeks or months or years. You don't even know if that will be over in a few births, or whether it needs some cycles of births. I mean, in our system, it says that 84 lakh yoniyan hoti hain, you know, if you want to do that cycle. How many cycles you do? But the satisfying part is that you carry forward the pluses and the minuses both. So what one tries to do is that in every birth, you try to accumulate your pluses and embark and cover the distance as much as you want. Again, my anecdotes, it's like, say, traveling from here to Kanyakumari, based on your, that's probably your end point. Based on your performance, based on your Sanchit Karma, the Lord probably gives you a ticket from here on a Shatabdi to Delhi, probably an executive class ticket. But suppose your Agami Karma are bad, you've misbehaved with the fellow passengers, you've not treated that porter well, you've not treated that waiter well. Well, when you disembark at Delhi, Lord will say, fine, now you probably need to take a detour and get onto the passenger train to Guwahati. Your destination is Kanyakumari, but then the next train in the next berth that you take is towards Guwahati on a passenger train. God bless. So your effort has to be that. Personally, I would say that each one of us should just endeavor to move in that direction, and that again starts with awareness and the will and the thought of moving in that direction. I would even say a desire to move in that direction, because the ultimate goal is attaining that state of desirelessness, transcending those desires.
So I have a lot more questions, but my time runs out, it seems. I think I'll open it to the audience for a bit, otherwise I'll have to get you offline for the questions. Any questions from the audience? Can somebody give a mic there?
Yeah, hi sir, my name is Anirudh Tewari, and it was a lovely session for you. Thank you so much. So my question is, as you mentioned, that dharma, the duty, the attached duty by dharma. How would one understand what's the duty which comes with it? So I'll just give you an option. Let's say there are two mothers. One mother teaches his child in every step via her experience. So that child will know which steps to take, the right steps. He will already know that. One mother has thought that I want my child to learn via his experience. So she will let the child experience on his own. So I just want to know how this mother will come to know that what is the right duty of the mother? How would they understand their own duty?
See,
I hope my question.
I get it. See, let me, please have a seat. You see, dharma, the word dharma, there are a couple of things, a couple of points here. One is the word dharma means righteousness. The second meaning of the word dharma is duty. But there is one other important meaning of the word dharma, which is dharma is that innate quality which defines you. जैसे आग का धर्म है जलाना. आपने कभी ठंडी आग नहीं सुनी होगी. कभी सुना है कि किसी ने आग को पकड़ा, आग में हाथ डाला, वो ठंडी थी, जलानी. आग का धर्म है जलाना, वो जलाएगी. पानी का धर्म है शीतलता, ठंडा होता है पानी. Of course, अगर वो आग का धर्म ले लेगा तो गर्म हो जाएगा. So it is only when the quality of heat, fire gets into water that becomes hot. Otherwise, पानी शीतल है. आग का धर्म है जलाना, आग का धर्म है. The dharma of the mother here, that question that you asked, is to teach the child. What she teaches the child is her wisdom. That's her karma. That's not her dharma. That's a part of her karma. What is she teaching her child? What is her dharma is to teach a child, bring up the child. Now, basically, all of us are humans, and a lot of times, thank you so much for bringing up this question, because that gives me an opportunity to explain the shlok that I mentioned, which is 18.66. A lot of people ask this question, that what does Lord Krishna mean when he says Sarv Dharman Parityajya, Sabhi Dharmo ko chhod ke? What is he saying? What is he saying? What dharma is he asking Arjuna to shed? Righteousness, duty. What is it that he is asking Arjuna to shed? Now, to actually understand this, personally, I had to look for the answer, and I got the answer from Ramcharitmanas. If you read these two things together, then you get an answer. What dharma is he talking of? Because in Ramcharitmanas, Lord Ram tells this, which is again a mirroring of his. Tajamad moh kapat chala nana karo sadyate hi sadhu samana. कि जब आप अहंकार मोह कपट तज के मेरे पास आओगे, तब मैं आपको साधु की तरह बना दूंगा. That is exactly what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna. Sarv dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraj. So the word dharma means कि आप जब कपट छल ये तज के हमारे पास आओगे, मोह तज के आओगे, तब आएंगे. इंसान आज भी हम लोगों में 5 चीजें बड़ी वो है. काम, क्रोध, लोभ, अहंकार are all ingrained in us. When we are able to shed these and take the Lord's Shadagati, that is what we will be able to. Then it is at that time that he says that I'll sort of rid you of all sins. That is what dharma Lord Krishna is telling us. So to understand, so a lot of times when you have to understand these scriptures, you have to read them in conjunction. And you have to read these scriptures which are separated, centuries apart. Thank you so much for asking that question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
And so I just love the concept of the check-in, check-out concept that you just mentioned. It's a fantastic exemplification and an anecdote. But my question to you is, sir, you mentioned about checked in and checked out. Is there a strategy or a structure which says, you have a smooth check-in and you have a smooth check-out and you have a comfortable stay? I'm talking about the body staying inside, the soul staying inside the body. So is there a mechanism? Do you advocate that? Shouldn't we advocate it? Because जो भगवान ने बॉडी दिया है उसको बहुत प्यार से संवार के रखना is like valuing God. So, any thoughts on those lines?
You're absolutely right. I mean, this is a lot of times, God resides within us, the temple of God. So we have to look after it. We have to look after this body as long as we are, the custodians. So one of the concepts of this is that it's not the ownership of the body, it's the trusteeship that you should think of. That you are just a trustee of this body. This body belongs to Him. Everything belongs to Him. And that condition belongs to Him. Similarly, your body also belongs to Him. You are also part of that energy soul. And the second part of your question, what should we be doing? I think we are given a very simple solution here, and that is what Amit also said, that it sounds very simple, which is that if we are going to do our duty diligently, sincerely, according to, we are doing a dharma, अगर हम अपने धर्म का पालन कर रहे हैं, and dharma here would mean doing your duty righteously. If you are a teacher, do your duty righteously. Do your dharma as a teacher righteously. Do your dharma as a grahast righteously. Do your dharma as a mother righteously. Do your dharma as a father, as a son, as a husband. Do your dharma righteously. Dharma here would become duty, but doing it righteously. And if you're doing that again, as I said, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. If you're doing that, that will take you to moksha. That will take you to moksha. That, to my mind, is something that we all need to sort of do. Simply, if we are able to do that part, we would cover a lot of distance.
Also, this book has very interesting detours it takes. So a lot of annoying questions which we have, which we don't ever bother to ask, they automatically get answered by the different chapters. They're not lengthy chapters, by the way. It's about 3-4 days if you take it easy. In 3-4 days, you can take the first read, and then you probably have to take one chapter a day. And you start getting, we used to have this thing back in the day, कि हम एक चीज ढूंढते थे, like you were saying, like I'm answer ढूंढ रहे हैं. The index will give you the answers to a lot of questions you'll have. It'll be very interesting to take a look if anyone.
Yeah, one thing I just like to suggest to our readers is that, you can read this book cover to cover, no problem. But you can also read it section wise if you want. You can pick up the third section first, or the second section first, or the first one. You can read that way, or you can even read any of the chapters individually. But my suggestion here would be that read one chapter a day and try to contemplate and reflect on it. That is my suggestion to you, because I would really because the objective of writing this book is to nudge you all to think, pause, reflect, and look for that stillness within you. I mean, this is. I would like this to be a nudge for all of you. I mean, this is no scripture per se. These books are no scriptures per se. They don't hold any very great words of wisdom in that sense, because it's just borrowed from the two great spiritual texts that I have. I've just sort of captured them and encapsulated them for you. But try to read them. Try to think on your own, reflect on your own, and you will find your own answers.
He's been modest, he's done a very good job of interpreting them.
Manoj, you had something.
I'm sure. So it's okay. I mean, while doing your duty righteously, if you need to sack someone, is that right?
Absolutely. It's part of the duty. I mean, a butcher, as I said, Bhagavad Gita talks of a butcher. A butcher said, butchering animals is part of my duty. It's his duty. So, for example, a soldier kills a human and somebody murders someone out here. The punishment that even the law gives to the two for killing or taking a human life is different. So we view taking a human life differently even within our worldly affairs. So as far as that is concerned, second somebody is part of your duty. Just do it.
Thank you. So how do you work on the doership or ego? I consider doership and the ego, they correlate with each other. Like, how do you overcome? You are handling so many things. You are in a prime position. So, आप doership से बाहर कैसे आते?
You're absolutely right. I mean, doership is karta bhav. I am the doer. Karta bhav hai mere mein. Now, the way to go about it is think about yourself being, as I said, 11.33 Bhagavad Gita, nimitta matra.
You are just an instrument of his will. You are just carrying out his will. But being Nimitt Matra it's not something that you can master, being Nimitt Matra. You have to just live it. Every breath that you take has to be with that intent, that you are just a Nimitt Matra. You are just an instrument of his will. So being a Nimitt Matra, thinking about him all the time, that is something, whatever action that you take, when it is devoted to him, thinking that it is just, you are just acting as per his will. Her question, if you have to sack someone, well, that's his will. I'm just an instrument. The sacking is part of his will. You are just an instrument. But at the same time, when you're giving somebody a job also, then you are not giving it. He's giving it. You're just an instrument. Either way, you can't sort of cherry pick here that, the sacking belongs to him and the job belongs to me. That's the only thing.
Sir, I just want to give my observation. Bible says charity is doubly blessed. It blesses the giver and it blesses the taker. How here is blessed is the person who was asking questions, such profound questions, Mr. Amit, and blessed is the person who was answering such profound questions, and blessed is the audience who was enjoying it. Thank you very much.
If I'm missing anything, anyone at the back? There's somebody here.
निमित्त मात्र वाला कॉन्सेप्ट अगर आपके मुंह से आ रहा है, there is so much of hope for the country. वो दोबारा सोने की चिड़िया वाली hope.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, my question may be on the same lines as what ma'am just expressed. And sir, my question to you is not to the author of the book, but more to the individual that we know, especially the officer that we know. Righteousness is one word which is kind of the flavor of this entire discussion here. Call it righteousness or dharma. What I want to ask you, sir, is that do you sometimes find it in conflict with more earthly and worldly situations that one may find oneself in, especially as a bureaucrat? Is it in conflict with certain personal aspirations that one may otherwise think of, or one may otherwise feel that one is deserving of? Does that quest to stick to that righteousness sometimes get in the way of those more earthly desires that one may think that one deserves? I may want you to answer that more as a bureaucrat, considering the times that we live in.
Thanks, Anirudh. Certainly life has its challenges, and we all are living in the age of dualities. So there would always be challenges, there would always be choices that one has to make. It's an era of choices that one has to make. But again, the issue is choice is entirely yours to make. What choice you want to make. As far as the issue goes in terms of desires coming into it, definitely. Desires, aspirations are something that do present to you one of those choices. The issue is, what do you decide? Whether you want to fulfill your desires, your aspirations, or you want to stick to your chosen path, the chosen path of your righteousness or whatever the dharma is. So, to my mind, the conduct of every individual has to be dharmic, which is as per your duty. If you are a lawyer, your duty as a lawyer is to defend your client. That's your duty, whatever it is. Now, that is the duty of, because your client has entrusted his or her case on you. So you perform your duty to the best of your abilities. As long as you're doing that, to my mind, that is righteousness. Just that question again, if you have to make a choice which is a bitter choice, which in some ways may appear to be uncomfortable to others, or to some people, if it's something which is bitter, as officers, we have had to make this choice so many times where we feel that this choice would make a lot of people uncomfortable. But then if it is something that is the right thing to do in those circumstances, we've done that. Thank you.
So we are restricted to the back seat. If there's anybody who has a question, probably have to come in the front row, please. We won't be able to see you raising your hand.
Namaskar, I'm Dr. Sudhir. First of all, you talked about so many Gitas. Probably I would believe the entire auditorium is with me in saying today we heard 𝐸𝐤𝐻 Anirudh Gita. Am I right? Yeah, that's it. Secondly, since this was a profound talk, I have been teaching philosophy all my life in philosophy in university. I was very somber and very, not always serious because philosophy or profundity goes well. But both gentlemen were smiling. That was really something which really took me to a different world. And today's session, I feel, it did raise questions in our hearts. It settled so many questions, even unasked questions. But my just little one query which comes to my mind is how all these profound talks should reach to the next generation. That is my question. How Dr. Anirudh wishes to take it. Through writing books, fine, but it has to really spread and percolate down to the youngest mind. And Nitiji would be, she's taking care of that younger generation. How it reaches, that's my question, if you can answer this.
I'll be happy to come and talk to your students anytime you want me to. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for a lovely opportunity.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. And thank you all. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you.